3 years ago, when I walked the 2,000-year-old streets of Pompeii, I was very intrigued by how the volcanic ash that destroyed it also preserved it. This experience was my inspiration for this project. I chose to construct some interesting locations in the city before the eruption. Most of us have seen photos of the ruins as they look today, but I would like you to see some of this amazing city before the disaster took place. Take a glimpse of the buildings when the Romans lived in them. Understand their culture and day-to-day life. Pompeii covered 0.27 square miles. Rich and poor lived side by side. The city was divided into walled blocks called insulae, meaning island. The insulae would have houses, apartments, workshops, and shops. Some had up to a dozen houses. Not everyone was wealthy in Pompeii and could live in a large home. Poorer families rented tiny apartments which were on the opposite side of the street to the wealthier families. One insulae had only one house, the House of the Faun. It was 32,400 square feet. I would like to take you on a tour through the massive house and give you an idea of how it functioned. Now entering the house through the atrium, which is decorated with mosaics. In the morning, the owner of a large house would have visitors that would come to pay their respects and ask for favors. Visitors were greeted by slaves and waited in the atrium. The atrium was open to the sky. In the main atrium, there was a statue of the faun, which was in the pool called the Impluvium, which collected rainwater. This helps keep the atrium cool, and later the water overflows below into a cistern tank buried under the ground and used for drinking water. The visitors were asked to go into the tablinum, an office overlooking the peristyle, a courtyard. Most grand houses had one peristyle. The House of Faun has two peristyles, which I will show you the second one shortly. This is the dining room. When they were in the dining room, they dined laying down. They laid on their left arm and ate with their right arm. They would have slaves come in and entertain them as they ate and feed them food. In the peristyles, they had ponds, fountains, and hedges to decorate the inside. The kitchen was usually at the back of the house. Only the slaves went back to the kitchen. A stone hearth with an arched opening underneath stored either charcoal or wood for burning. Pots were placed on the open hearth to cook food for the master. There was no chimney in the kitchen either. There was a bedroom just off the kitchen looking into the second peristyle. The second peristyle had lots of space. It had two ponds and hedges surrounding both of them. There was a second floor with more rooms and rails. On the second floor, you got a perfect view. Leave the House of Fawn. Notice how the windows that looked out onto the street were small and up high for safety. The street walls were painted at the bottom with large bands of red and white above. The top would have been covered with election slogans, advertisements, and different messages. Most of the city streets were narrow and paved with different stones. There were larger stones that went across the street from one side to the other. They helped people cross the street without stepping in the sewage. There was no underground draining system. Latrines drained into them. The overflowing bathhouses and fountains helped keep them flushed. There were deep ruts besides these stepping stones so that the carts could ride over them without hitting the stones. We are now taking a short walk to our next location. We are now entering the main meeting place in Pompeii, which is the Forum. It was the center for government, business, law, and religion. The Temple of Zeus was at the north end of the Forum. Jupiter was the supreme god of the Roman Empire. Jupiter was the god of the sky and the protector of the state and its laws. In addition, the temple was also the city treasury. Underground chambers stored the money. The gods were thought to be protecting the treasure. There was also long rows of columns supporting a roof. They were called colonnades. This is where small traders would set up their stalls and sell different items. I hope learning about Pompeii and having a glimpse of the buildings when the Romans lived in them gives you a better understanding of their culture and day to day life.